Ladies and gentlemen, it is not every day that I get to share with you the great news of one of my chess successes. My recent over-the-board tournaments have been a little bit topsy-turvy, and I haven't played in a lot of Title Tuesdays as of late. But I did yesterday, and man, it was one to remember. In the second round, I defeated an extremely strong grandmaster from Russia named David Paravyan. If for some reason he watches this, I got mad respect for you, David. That's why I'm making this video. Yeah, it was a really good run. I gained like 60 points over the entire event. I'm going to share 4 games with you, and I'm going to show you how to, the proper way to beat a person rated 2975. Now, during the game, he was rated a little bit lower. His highest rating ever is on the thumbnail, 3072, but I'm rounding up. I'm feeling good. And before we jump into the game, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, myself. I used my own opening courses in this video. David played e4 against me, and I played the move d5. Now, this is the Scandinavian defense if I take back here with the queen. However, knight f6 is what I prefer to play. This is a very aggressive weapon, and really the whole point is that if white decides to play in the center or hang on, which is also playing in the center, but at least hanging on to this pawn, you can get a very dynamic gambit, like the Portuguese gambit, which after d4, bishop g4 usually is c4. This is the mainline Portuguese gambit. But white can also play the Icelandic gambit, into the Icelandic gambit, I should say. So I was familiar with this position up until this very moment right here. So this is my gambits repertoire for black, hashtag sponsored by myself. And here, black is down a pawn, but has a lot of development and is ready to attack the middle of the board with a move like e5. So normally white takes, so gives away the bishop, to, kind of create a little bit of a weakness here, but you have really good laser beam pressure. And normally my games here go castles by white, I play e5, I stockpile pressure here with my bishop. They cannot take because the queen is hanging, and it's just, it's a very aggressive line. The top engine move here is b4 by white, which I have never faced, ever, but now you know it's the top engine move. But of course, the whole point is that you take, and then white still has to know what to play here. It's not easy at all. David here thought for a bit and played the move queen d2, and I'm not gonna lie to you. At first, I was like, well, I've never seen queen d2 before. This must be some secret, Russian preparation. And then the more I looked at it, I couldn't really make any sense of it. I couldn't help wonder what was the idea. So I played the move e5, to attack the middle of the board. And again, it's a bit of a strange move because he's got the bishop here, and now it's blocked, and he castled, and I was like, wait a minute, what is he doing? He can't take because I just go here, and he can't take because bishop c5. So when he castled and I took on d4, I was like, all right, I'm definitely much better. Am I winning? Minus 1.6, we'll see, maybe. He plays knight e4. Here, I can obviously take this, but that would hang my queen, and that is maybe what you would do. I didn't do that. I took like this. Now, if he takes this way, I can grab a pawn. So he takes like this, and now I had a very difficult decision. I was like, how do I take on e4? On the one hand, I very quickly calculated that if I take like this, he takes f7, and I wasn't so sure about taking on c2. That's the engine's top choice. I played it a bit more safe. I decided to do it like this because I saw that I could attack his bishop, so he couldn't take my pawn. And when he went out this way, I attacked his bishop, and I thought I was doing something smart here by making him kind of trap his own piece. As you can see, Stockfish is not impressed. It thinks that I should play rook d7 and be quiet. But I played the move rook d5. And here, I was like, wait a minute, he can go rook f4. And I'm a little bit unhappy with this move. I also don't like the fact that this is hanging. So I was thinking of retreating, but I didn't want to retreat too quickly. I thought about playing f6, but I wasn't sure about, the knight coming to f4. So I played rook d7 now. I could have played it last move, and suddenly I was like, wait a minute, he can just go rook f4, and I have a problem because he's going to win my pawn. And he didn't see it. I was like, what? He didn't see it. 2960, what did he miss it? So now I can go c5, and now I'm holding my position together. And here David played this move. And I always have an issue against these players. When I get a really good position, I get terrified. You ever get that 200-300 points higher rated than you? Get terrified, right? I'm like, oh my God, don't screw this up. I'm up on time. I have a good position. G6, very quick move. The point of G6, if he gets to play rook f4, f5. That is my idea. I very quickly play G6, and here David plays C3, and I go, wait a minute. That's a huge mistake because I can go D3, and then I can go C4. This is like mummifying the white position. Now I have this beautiful little pawn chain here, and the game is absolutely over. Now it's about the cleanup process. All I have to do now is make sure I don't blunder something or get too low on time. So I create a little barricade, I get my bishop out, and again, I'm absolutely terrified. Make no mistake. Despite this position being minus a billion, despite you maybe even being able to win this against Magnus Carlsen, I'm terrified because that's what happens. My heart rate is probably doubling. Well, maybe not, because my resting heart rate, no, actually, my resting heart rate's about 60. So, yeah, probably like 120, 130 easily. Like everything, right? Knees weak, arms are sweaty, right? So I trade bishop for knight. I just want to simplify. Now, I have a very powerful knight, absolutely beautiful knight. So what I begin doing is cleaning up, right? Cleaning up, getting to his pawns, and he sacrifices to create an outside pawn. He also bulldozes on the H-file to try to open it up, right? I trade rooks, and he tries to bring his rook. And right here is the scariest moment of the game. Again, it's never over against these guys. It's never over. Look at this. He creates a mate threat, and I have like 30s. I have like maybe 25 seconds here. He has about 10 seconds. Again, I'm absolutely terrified for no reason. Here, you can just take the bishop, push the pawn, and even though white can temporarily stop you, you have knight f2. So again, it's not difficult whatsoever to win this position. It doesn't change the fact that I'm extremely nervous, but I find knight takes c3, very nice move. If he takes, I queen. I go knight b1, and here I just realized that, I have b4. I also could have taken, which now that I'm analyzing this game, I realized I had. But I go b4, create the getaway from my king, and I win the game on time, but it also is completely over because he will move, I will take his pawn, and I will queen. I was so elated to win this game. I cannot even stress, because I have had a horrible blitz run recently. I've done almost no training. Yeah, I've lost a ton of ratings. So this was unbelievable. And to do it, here's the thing. A lot of you sometimes will ask me, and my Twitch streams usually, on YouTube, it's not a dynamic system. Like your comments, I can't respond to them live. But you will ask me, are your courses good for people who are like 1800, 1900? If someone is armed to the teeth with stockfish and knows that your opening is coming, that's usually a bad sign. But I used my opening to get a great position in 10 moves against a person rated 3K. So, and this is blitz, but at the same time, if you're 1500 and you want a super aggressive weapon with black, I absolutely adore these knight f6 positions with bishop coming to g4. Next game I'd like to share with you was a very topsy-turvy game. This was the very next round. It was against Grigory Aparin, who's he's actually playing in the next Grand Prix group with Andreikin, Levon, and Hikaru. And against Aparin, I played, by the way, that's what I said, the video is sponsored by myself. This is my d4 dynamite. So, I was just playing Trumpowski, and Grigory surprised me, right? So here I did one of my favorite things in the Trumpowski. It's a little different than the London. It's where you play the bishop to g5 against the knight on f6. I took and I played f4. And my idea here is that I've gotten rid of my bad bishop, because look at how many pawns I have on dark squares. So my dark squared bishop no longer exists, and I'm playing a stonewall setup. So I have a lot of space. I'm ready with knight e5. So if he castles short, I'm going to put my knight here, and I'm going to create an attack on this side of the board. In a worst case scenario, let me just show you how bad this can get. Like in a worst case scenario, black gets absolutely bulldozed in a stonewall setup. Like full speed locomotive. I think a locomotive is faster than a bulldozer. But that's, that's just for you to discuss in the comments. I have no idea. So he plays queen b6, and right here he did something absolutely shocking. When he played queen b6 and bishop d7, I was like, is my man really going to castle long? No way. What's he doing? Get my knight. You can't castle long. A wave of pawns is coming that way. Then he played rook f8, and I was like, oh my god, he's actually going to castle queenside. Now, admittedly, rook f8 could have been a mouse slip. He might have done this, but I think this was his intention. I think, listen, when you play a guy like Gothamchess, inherently there is a sign of no respect, right? So he goes long, and I'm like, no, I'm going to go 3 out of 3 in Title Tuesday. Are you kidding me? b4, let's go. Knight e8, a4, let's go. Completely winning position, but still terrified. Why? Because even though I've got, like, when you have a big attack, you have to strike correctly. You cannot just play a5, b5, blah, 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 c4, knight c4. Like, you have to do it right. You can't let your opponent consolidate. For example, look, if I play b5, look how much my advantage goes away. Why? Because after cb5, if I play ab5, there's no, like, I close my Rook file, I have no real attack. You have to do this very accurately. So here, I played b5 right away. I actually rushed it, but I had a different idea. I played b5 and knight c5. This was my idea. And I remember, because I didn't want to close the b file, I wanted to take with the bishop and maybe keep some pressure. I realized that he has a very strong response, knight c4. I actually accidentally let him get a defensive outpost, and then he's going to take my knight. So for example, bishop c4, he will take, and if I take on b5, he will take here, and my attack is gone. I mean, I just traded way too many pieces. So I remember sitting there going, oh my God, I messed up. I should have played knight c5 first. I also here could have considered the move c4. Could have brought another pawn into the attack. And I consider all these moves, but it's blitz, right? Doesn't always work that way. And he didn't play knight c4. And, I was feeling really confident throughout this title Tuesday. Like right here, I was thinking, okay, I have pressure here. He surprised me with the move f5, and I had calculated here knight e6, rook f6, knight d8, and I would try to escape with my knight. I would try to get out. And then I played this, and he didn't play rook f6. Like, I was legitimately out calculating my opponents. My plan here was to play queen h5, and apparently, Stockfish says it's bad, but this was my plan. And I was so happy after the game that I was seeing the moves for my opponents too. But they weren't, and they're supposed to be, far stronger than me. And now what happens? Well, dust settles, and I'm winning. I have an extra exchange. I mean, I have a rook for a knight. Now, admittedly, Grisha, he has a very solid position. I mean, he doesn't have many weaknesses. I don't have much pawn mobility, and he's playing really quickly. He's playing really fast. By the way, if anybody's wondering, he did not miss a fork. This is check. So I know in the comments, sometimes I see you all like, oh, you missed the move. Sometimes it's true, not there. So I start building up my forces on the B file. I start trying to crack things open. I hide my king in the corner. A couple moves later, I get a trade. I trade a couple things. I trade a pawn. I trade like this. And I'm like, oh my God, he's giving me an F pawn. But I have 5 seconds on the clock. And every time I make a move, I gain 2 seconds. But my hand is shaking. I got 5 seconds. And I'm not very happy with what happens in a few moves. But because, I let him in. I let him win a pawn. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to push. I'm a caveman brain. Push. And then with time ticking, 3-4 seconds, I repeat moves. And I clutch the draw. But I snatched the draw from the jaws of victory. With no time on the clock, I wasn't sure what my way forward was. Apparently, my way forward is that I should take this pawn, just let him push, and just rook g1. And I let him push, and rook g7. And this doesn't matter. These pawns, as scary as they look, they don't matter, because I'm first. And I'm cracking this through. And I wish I did it, but can you imagine the pain of losing this game? I'm not happy with myself, but that's why I want to share it with you. I'm sharing my emotions live at the game. I was happy, but it happens. A little bit later in the event, but listen, Title Tuesday would not be complete without me showing you games that, with many results, right? So a little bit later in the event, I was playing against Moro, 182. This is Luca Moroni, Jr. I guess there's a senior, and I like his name because it makes me think of myself because his last name is Moroni, Moroni, but the first 5 letters moron. So I see myself in his last name. It's like a mirror. It's very nice. I see him. I'm like, okay, I'm humbled, and it's time to play chess. He also is a streamer. I think he streams in Italian. So he played d4, and we got a very interesting London. He took on c5. Against the London, it's well known that dc5 is completely fine for black, but it's blitz. It's a very interesting blitz weapon. This is not any of my courses. This is just something that I know. He took, and I went back to win this pawn, right? So I'm trying to win this pawn back, and I played a very interesting move here. I played bishop d7. The point of bishop d7 is preventing bishop b5. For example, knight c6, bishop b5 is well known as a good move. And it relieves the pressure here. So bishop d7, white can even take the knight and relieve the pressure. So I played bishop d7, and there's a very complicated variation here where black is just a pawn down. Like black has 5 pawns, white has 6, but it's like Benko-style compensation in the sense that he cannot move his pawns forward at all. I develop the rest of my pieces, and I'm going to put pressure on him. But I played the opening a little bit too slowly. And again, I was very hesitant. I didn't remember what I was supposed to do. Turns out I'm supposed to go here immediately. I thought this move was kind of stupid during the game because he would just go here. And I block my own pressure. And what's my bishop doing? Turns out it's the top stockfish move. So sometimes if you don't know a move is the top stockfish move, it doesn't look very natural. Like, okay, bishop a4, I attack his queen. What's he going to hang it? Come on, he's 2860, right? So that's not going to happen. So I decided to finish my development. And again, I should focus on the queen side, but I decide I really want to trade bishops and push in the center. As you can see by the stockfish evaluation, this is completely not the right plan, but it's blitz. I'm doing my best, as I was trying to do in the other two games. So I take the center, and I'm pretty happy here. You know, I have to say, I'm like, okay, I'm down a pawn, but I'm going to go rook a7, rook a8. But again, Luke is playing really fast, and it's really annoying. You know, I kind of sent him on the back foot. Notice that his evaluation has kind of gone down a little bit. And I have an option here between marching forward with my pawns, which I rejected because knight c4 I thought looked very strong. Incorrect. d4 is the best move. But I came up with a second plan here. Knight e5. My plan here is that as he's bunched up here, right, and he's going to try to get out this way, I'm going to go this way and checkmate him because his king has no pieces in front of it, just pawns, all sitting there waiting for my horses to arrive and chop their heads off. So he plays knight c2, I pin him to his queen, queen b1, and the attack commences on the h2 square. Now, Luca is a pretty decent player, so he doesn't hang mate in one, tragically. But here I have an option between bringing my queen and just, you know, marching forward with h5. h5 is the best move, but okay, I play queen e5. And he begins the consolidation process. So he's ready to play h3 and kick me out, as well as rook h1. So you'll notice here that the eval is very high in white's direction because I sacked a pawn in the opening, so I'm down a pawn. I am not playing the position the way I'm supposed to. So I'm a pawn down, and I think I have a big attack, but I don't. So the computer does not believe in my attack at all. It just kicks my knight out. And here, he actually respects my attack too much and plays this. I don't know what that was trying to do. I guess he didn't want my queen coming to g5. So I said, okay, let me bring my bishop back, and I'm going to play g5 anyway, right? So I get my queen there anyway. So I have my queen, my two knights, my bishop, and my rook. How? Well, the king's going to get out of the way. King h7, and I'm going to play rook g8 and double up. Now, Stockfish here thinks it's +6. During the game, I was very confident that this was not a +6 position. Stockfish thinks it's +6 because I put my king on the wrong square. Apparently, I should have gone king h8. Why? Because king h7 is on the same diagonal as this queen, but I thought it made no difference. It does, because he can use the pin and attack my queen. And if I go out of the way, he gallops forward. So sometimes a knight is able to leap over a barrier that is not possible, right? It's not possible otherwise. So I gave this to him. Shouldn't have given this to him, but I gave it to him. And he goes queen b4. Look, his queen comes in. And Luca follows a very logical strategy here. My queen is my most powerful attacker, so he trades it. Under normal circumstances, this is a very intelligent decision. But in this case, it's not so good. Why? Because he allows a new door to open. Now, he does have very powerful counterplay, and he also has a major time advantage at this point. I mean, again, as always, I am much lower on time than my opponents because I'm very slow and nervous. But I'm actually making some progress, guys. Like, I have my rooks, my knights, right? Everybody's kind of moving forward. And then here I tank. I play rook c3. He plays knight back to f3. And I know something's wrong. I can sense it. Look at the eval. It's even starting to believe in my position. And I play knight e4, right, to prevent knight g5. He goes here. I'm thinking, where is my breakthrough? I mean, everything in his position is protected. First of all, I completely miss I can just take this pawn. It's so funny. I pulled the game up afterward. Like, I pulled it up just now, and I was like, why didn't I take on a3? Nerves! Also, I'm not as good. But nerves? I just didn't see it at all. I played bishop g4. By the way, bishop g4 is the top engine move. I'm not even joking. I played the best move. But I got no time. I got like 5 seconds on the clock. He plays a4. I'm like, oh my god, I have nothing. I'm better? And I play the move? Well, of course I do. But I have 3-4 seconds on the clock. And when your opponent has 3-4 seconds on the clock, the best thing for you to do is to create complete chaos. And he does. His knight jumps right into my face. Knight g5 check. I can take it with the rook, and I can also take it with the knight. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to lose my rook. No, I'm not going to lose my rook. I'm going to lose the game. Knight takes g5. His idea was not to take here. It was to take my bishop. And I'm pinned, which I missed in the little scramble, and he picks up more pawns, and then he picks up all my pieces. And he wins the game. I resigned a few moves later because I can't defend this position. It turns out knight g5 loses the game, which it loses the game to my rook, to sacrificing my rook. I would have never played this in a million years under the circumstances. With 30 seconds on the clock, this is findable. But you have to find rook g5 and then the ultra calm rook c2. The bishop is pinned to the king. He cannot protect it. And I'm winning it. Didn't see it. Didn't see it. Missed it. Happens. Heartbreaking. I wasn't too upset I lost this game, though. Because of the very next game. This game I was very happy about. This was a super close battle. I apologize. No, this is the wrong game. Oh my goodness, folks, this is the game. Yeah. Spoilers. It's okay. I played 2 European IMs, or was the other guy in FM? This was the game. This game was absolutely nuts. This was the last round of Title Tuesday. We're going to end it on a bang. Are you ready for this? This is a 2800 IM from Romania. I knew that. Knight f6, bishop g5. I go for a Trompowsky, and this time I play one of my favorites, the Raptor variation. This was a big game because my Twitch chat also bet before the tournament I would not get 7.5 points. They thought I would get less, and I had 6.5 going into this game. So my opponent plays an aggressive line and takes my pawn on b2. This is a gambit line. The point of h4, by the way, is obviously to open up the rook. That's why you play like this. So he takes my pawn on b2. I take the entire center. Let's have some fun. He plays d6. I attack his queen, and there's a very nice trap here. If he takes my second pawn, it's a very nice trap. Hashtag D4 Dynamite course. Hashtag GothamChess.com after this video is over. The trap is queen c1, and he cannot prevent his queen from being trapped. If he tries to get away, I fork him. It's very brutal. So he went back to the middle, and here he was making a mockery out of me. I mean, his queen is on the verge of death. I was thinking to sack a pawn, trap his queen in the corner, but I have no way to move. If I play rook f5, he plays g5, and he somehow gets out to g7 or even down to h1. It's insane. So I spent some time. I decided to play bishop c3, and I let him back into the game a little bit, you know, with rook g1 and bishop e7. But he gave me the pawn. And I mean, folks, can we just take a pause here? This position is nuts, all right? It's equal material, but what is going on? I can't castle, he can't castle this way. I can't castle both ways. Both my rooks have moved. This is nuts. So I play g3 to consolidate my structure, and I start targeting his queen. I play bishop back to e2, which is the only move. This is the only move not to lose by white. Otherwise, white is much worse. And I chase away his queen with threats of bishop h5. And he misses that I have a fork. And all of a sudden, I'm picking up some material, and I'm up in exchange. But this is anything but clear. So what do? I immediately force a queen trade. No queens on the board. I remove his most powerful attacking piece. Now it's time for the game to be won by white. But just like my last opponent, Luca Moroni, my opponent here from Romania put his foot down on the gas as hard as possible, which is not recommended, unless you're on the Autobahn. Still not recommended, though. You have to manage your speed. Bishop c6, and he begins lightning speed expansion on the queen side. I mean, he plays knight c5, knight c4, b5, king d7 to consolidate his middle, b4, king e7 to defend both center pawns and get out of the way. As you can see, the advantage is dipping, right? Black is making some very good progress, and I can't really hold him off. I don't really know what to do because the pawns are coming, the bishops are coming, and I can sense that heart rate, right? The same against Paravian, the same against Moroni. I'm like, oh my God, rook b1, knight a3, and then I realize, wait a minute, I'm not supposed to be beta in this position. I'm the attacker, right? I gotta get my bishops, my rooks involved, be the alpha, be the sigma of this position. Rook f7, and I wrap my bishop around this way. We're coming in on the diagonals, and I've got rook d6. I think I'm completely winning. I'm in the clear, but all of a sudden, I'm like, how do I break through? Bishop f4, he plays knight b5. And here I realize something amazing. It looks like the black position is completely well insulated. If I rush in with e5, he locks the door, and the pawns just descend upon my position. Look how quickly this position can get completely lost for white. I mean, he just descends upon me like flies on poop, you know? And trust me, my chess can definitely be compared to that. So I'm like, wait a minute. And then I realize sometimes the best step in chess is to go full steam ahead. Drive the car through the brick wall. A lot of car analogies in this video. Bishop takes d6, a move that looks impossible. But the point is, if he takes with the knight, I play e5 and I take. And if he closes me down, rook d5 because of my bishop. And if he plays knight d4 check, I just take. He goes here, and I take the pawn on b4. Apparently, I could have taken on e6 and then taken on c6, but okay, this is also good. And the dust settles, and I'm 2 pawns up. But I got like 8 seconds on the clock, and he has 10. Here come his bishops. Here comes his rook, right? His rook goes to g7. It goes back to g8. I'm like, oh God, oh God. When you're in time trouble, you find all the million ways you can lose the game. And I realize I have this move, a4. Such an important move, I thought. I deflect his bishop, and I'm going to come here and get this pawn. But first, I need to deflect his bishop over there, and I do. And I march forward with my king. I take the pawn. Here, very clutch moment. He expected me to take with my king, right? Because I had just played king d3. So he pre-moves rook b2, and I trick him, and he gives me his rook. Grant, we had 5 seconds on the clock. All right? But very important move here to consolidate. Just make sure that I can always block his checks. And he ends up giving me his rook. And the rest of his pieces too. It was a time scramble, like I said, and actually this game ended in very brutal fashion. Here I forced mate with a pawn. So I played the move h6. The king has to go to the corner and die. And that finished off my title Tuesday, 7.5 points out of 11. I think my best was 8. I don't think I ever got 8.5. I lost to Maroni. I lost to a strong Indian IM, whose name I don't remember. I think his username was like Blitz King something, but he killed me. That was all. I played terribly that game. And I lost to Christopher Yu, who I play in like every event. And that, folks, is how you defeat a 3,000 rated GM. For me, I always need some sort of comfortability in the opening. A time advantage is very important, and maintaining my composure and not throwing it away. I don't always do it, but yesterday I played very well. I wanted to share it with all of you, and it was really nice to get to use my own courses in Title Tuesday. That was a lot of fun. So, as always, if you made it this far in the video, I got mad love for you. Thanks so much for hanging out. Wanted to share this with you, and I'll see you in the next video. Get out of here.